Holly Murray is currently the director of franchise development at FRSTeam, but you were the brand president for almost 6 years. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, just a little
And
over six, but yeah.
love that. And FRSTeam is a really interesting franchise in the home service space because it's an industry that most people might not even know exists if they don't have one of these instances happen to them. The restoration industry is really interesting because not only are you restoring, people think restoration and they might think, oh, foundation repair or fire damage or things like that. But you guys really focus on something interesting, which I think is really cool, being personal items, right? Textiles, electronics, heirlooms, things like that that are really sentimental to a person's life. And so I think you guys have a really interesting perspective on what home service actually means in today's day and age because you are serving people in a much different way than maybe a roofer or a fencing franchise or any other traditional home service franchise. Holly Murray is a really interesting lady. I've got to speak with you many times about what your journey has been, and I've done some research on you. So I'm really excited to have you on the show, Holly, and thank you for hopping on.
Yeah, absolutely. Super excited to be here with you, George. I think
Thank you.
watching what you're doing with Nail and some of the technology pieces that are really helping the services industry, I think always anything that we can do from a technology standpoint to make customer service better, I think is a win for all people in every industry, not just the restoration side.
Love that. I love that. And I completely agree. When you got into the restoration industry, you didn't necessarily plan on a career in restoration, right? Like many people these days, you stumbled into it answering a job ad almost 3 decades ago, and you started as a technician, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And I love how you started in the most important role being the person actually out there doing the damn thing, right? And
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, what did you see on day one that told you that this was something that you wanted to build a career about, right? You get into the restoration industry, you had no idea what it was about, and you're like, boom, day one, what do you see that you're like, man, this is something that I might want to pursue a little bit longer?
Yeah, I would say for me, I fell in love with this industry when I realized that we get to help people literally every day. And just that's part of who I am, is I really enjoy helping people sit on a board of a charity. Like that really just brings joy to my life. I used to tell people if you're ever in a moment in your life when you're feeling depressed, go volunteer somewhere. Like nothing will make you feel better
Yeah.
than if you volunteer. And so getting to go out on these homes where people have been affected by a fire or water damage and seeing their prized possessions, right? Their clothing, their child's favorite stuffed animal, or a military flag that's been passed down through generations, or you'd be amazed at how many different type of sentimental items that get passed down from generation to generation, or the stories really behind their items, and being able to show up on that day where they think everything is potentially lost and letting them know that it's going to be okay, bringing those back, restoring them, and then seeing their face on the back end when you get to deliver back these amazing items and really the memories that come along with those items for them.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's like I said, the most interesting piece to me is like you're really attaching this service to a very important part of these people's lives, right? Not only did they potentially lose their home or lose their belongings, but like they lost something that was a part of their life, right? Like they lost these memories, they lost a lot of these really important things that hold such a sentimental value, which I think is you have to take a different approach at that point to the service that you're providing, right? Like you can't come in and be a contractor, right? You can't come in and be a
Right.
service provider. You have to come in and be like a friend. You have to come in and be a person that they can lean on and that they can trust with their belongings, right? With their memories. Um,
Yeah, we train a lot to the empathy that has to go in on that front end, right? You're
yeah,
talking to them about their belongings, their prized possessions, and really just working with them on, what's the most important thing in your home and have you thought about this? And, it's really about working with each individual claim is so different than the next and being able to really get to know them.
yep, 100%. When you started as a technician, you grew from there, and then FRSTeam popped somewhere in that beginning stage, right? So tell me
Yeah.
about how that began. Where did FRSTeam come from? Where did you guys start that idea?
Yeah, so we started initially just expanding locations as company operations. We had gone from one to two to three to four, very methodically looking at space, and sometimes through relationships that we had established with some of our contractor partners. Some of the big brands that you think of when you think of restoration, like ServiceMaster and ServPro and Paul Davis and Rainbow and those guys and Belfour and Blue Sky, and there's so many of them. They really helped us grow initially with the company store locations. And then what we really started to see in the restoration industry is insurance companies, we were kind of an afterthought for a lot of times, right? The structure was the most important, getting the water sucked out in the middle of the night, stopping the damages. That was really the priority for carriers. And insurance carriers really started to take a look at contents. And that's when we started seeing things like national relationships getting established in our space. And for me and my three business partners at the time, we were like, okay, well, how do we provide a national solution? There's only four of us. We can only open and operate so many locations. How do we continue to grow as a brand? And that's when we really looked at, can we partner with people and start franchise operations that align with us culturally? They have that passion for helping others and be able to then eventually offer that national solution across the country. So in 2006 is when we started laying the groundwork for national expansion and started selling franchises and partnering with some actual existing operators that may have already been doing some level of restoration for contents in their space, but they were independent at the time, and be able to offer really a national solution.
Yeah, 100%. For those who don't know, how is First Team different from a standard restoration company that might focus, like I said, on foundation repair or the structure, like you had mentioned?
Yeah, so we focus on their contents, right? So the belongings in a home. So their clothing, their electronics, their contents. We go in and really handle those. So we partner with those companies that are working on the foundation or working on the structure, sucking the water out. We look at them as vendor partners in our space. We also, I would say, have done an incredible job since we started expanding nationally in 2006 of developing some key relationships with some of our national insurance carrier partners. So some of the big guys that you could think of across the country, the Mayhem guys and the, Liberty Bibberty, all the fun ads that you see every day, right? Those are the companies that we really partner with on a national space. And that is a big differentiator for us as well. And I would just say, I think it's a lot of our people, our franchise owners across the country truly care and are really focused on not just building a local business, but they're really heavily involved even in their own community, doing charity work. Our office in Virginia just finished up their dry run where they're giving back to their local community as
I saw
well.
that. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. When you guys are signing on, because franchising is so interesting because, like, especially as a founder of a franchise, right? You've created this brand, right? You've put your heart and soul into this business that is yours, and then you're essentially handing it off to other people to go carry on the same mission and the same values and all of that that you started with, right? So it can be, especially in the beginning, it can be a very difficult thing to kind of hand over to these people that you've never met before, and you're like, okay, let's see how this goes. And I assume for you that was especially difficult because you knew how important it was for the people that were involved in the company to be people, right? To be very much so empathetic and very much so realizing like, hey, this isn't just a spreadsheet and numbers business, right? Like you really have to get in touch with these folks and meet them where they're at, because if you don't, you're just going to come off like another contractor, right? So in the beginning, when you were kind of handing out those first few territories, what was some of that skepticism looking like? And did you have kind of a process where you were able to vet people to make sure that they weren't just a bunch of spreadsheet numbers folks, or what did that look like for you?
Yeah, we were really big on having a meal with a potential franchise, really get to know them and talk about their life, who they are, would they be successful in this brand. I think also it's important, we really were focused on establishing true processes and systems. And those processes and systems, how do you standardize them? If you call, and who's answering the phone, and are they offering a high level of support? Are they asking the homeowner on the other end of the line, how are you? Right? You've just been through something versus, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, this is why we're coming out, but more just getting to know them and really putting that and building that out in systems and operational support. you have to have that good foundation so that when somebody calls an office in one location versus another, they're all going through that same onboarding training process system. And empathy can be a process. You can make sure that you're asking the right questions and you're communicating, you're saying hello, you're shaking a hand. And I think some people forget the importance of all of those steps in the process. And I would say that when we built the franchise too, there was a lot of hey, we've learned a lot over the years from all of our hundreds of
Right.
mistakes and putting good process and systems in place that help avoid some of those pitfalls that as an independent we came across on a regular basis.
Yeah. Yeah. Build the ship as you sail, figuring it out
Yes.
as you go. I mean, that's the name of the game. When you started first team, you've kind of held almost every position in first team, right? Like you've done a
Yes.
lot of different things. What did doing a lot of that frontline work actually teach you that you couldn't have necessarily learned just sitting in an office? And how did that kind of change the way that you led the brand when you adopted the president role?
Yeah, I would say because I've held so many roles, I understand that the homeowner has specific needs and questions and concerns. And I really got to see that firsthand going out on losses, especially in those early years. Not that I'm not against still going out on an occasional
Right.
claim because I'm a franchise owner still today. And just the importance of that. And then I think understanding that there are multiple people that have a vested interest in the assignment, right? So you have a mitigation company or a structure company, coordinating those pieces, how those communication flows between all parties, keeping your adjusters apprised of what's happening in the claim, communication, 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 and just the importance of that. And I would say because of some of those life lessons, we've been able to really build out like a system, a software system that really helps us kind of standardize that across the brand. And so it reminds everybody like you pass step A, now you go to step B, then you go to step C, and
Right.
making sure that update calls are happening and where that communication. And that I think really helped us kind of continue to grow the brand across the country. And then
Mhm.
just caring. I think you can never take it too lightly that someone's financial future is in your hands, whether that's a homeowner that we're dealing with and whether or not they're getting their items back or a franchisee, right? Our franchisees, they invest their future in this brand and making sure the importance of giving them strong systems and processes and support. Our support team here at First Team has over 100 years of experience. It's not just me being around for multiple decades, but a lot of our support team and our franchise business consultants that are in the field, our ops team, our sales team, they've all been in this industry and with First Team for a long time. So they really understand the importance of that support and their focus on our franchisee success.
Yeah, yeah. When you guys have like come to you and they're looking to become a fizzy, what are some of the things that you are telling them like, hey, this is the type of business we run? Because I again, assuming here, but when people are looking for opportunities to invest, right? Invest in a franchise, invest in your brand, they're most likely looking at multiple different options. What are you telling them about the brand that they would need to know to make sure that they understand what they're getting into because it is so different from a roofing or an HVAC or something like that.
Yeah, I would say for us in particular, in franchising world, there are semi-absentee, there's absentee businesses, there's a million different types of businesses that you can do.
Yeah.
I usually tell them, listen, the most successful operators, these are full-time, this is what they get up and eat, sleep, and breathe. They go into their office every day, they work with their team in the field, they understand their top contractor partnerships, their top carrier partnerships, they know them well. They're breaking bread with them on a regular basis. They're getting that amazing opportunity to see a homeowner at delivery, at pickup. Obviously, as they grow the business to some of our operators are, 10 million a year, they're typically not maybe going out on losses like
Right.
they did in the early years. They have a full team for that.
Right.
But it's just important that they understand the process And they really understand and get what we're doing every day, that we really are helping to restore their life of this homeowner. We're coordinating it with the carrier and the contractor and that relationship. And so I think a lot of them really get that we're here to help.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always mean that we go out and pack everything out. It could be that we just do an inventory and maybe a homeowner is going to cash out because that's where they're at in this life. Just making sure that they're really prioritizing the needs of the clients first.
Right.
And also, it gives you an amazing opportunity to build an incredible team. Some of my biggest joys over the last 30 some years at FRSTeam have been seeing an employee reach levels of success that they started as a technician like I did, and
Yeah.
now they're running an operation. Or we even have some employees that have opened their own FRSTeam franchise locations. And that's the best feeling in the world, is knowing that you got to help be a part of the success that they're building for themselves.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the coolest things about franchising specifically is like you really are not only helping the brand and helping yourself grow this brand, right, in this great way, and people can get really successful from that end of things, but also you're doing so in a way that's also helping other people grow their financial freedom, their goals in their life, etc. And that's one of my favorite things about just the franchise model in general is because it's a two-way street, right? Like you're helping both at the same time. And also if you're doing it right, hopefully you're also helping the customers and things, right? As well. So I love that about franchising and especially about FRSTeam because the way that you lead, I love the way that you lead. You have a quote in here that I love to remember being, oh, let me find it. Let me find it.
So funny that you say that, because there's part of me that's like, I have quotes.
Right. Oh, here we go. Okay. Oh man, that's not it. That's not it. Okay. Anyways, it's something along the lines of like you have to be the type of person that you want to attract in the way that you lead, right? Like you can't come in and be the hard ass that's expecting to get people to do things and you're like just drilling people every day and you're in here to get the work done and you're not really investing in like the people and the relationships and things like that. Um,
I'm
like you have
sure
to,
it's along the lines of, I have spent my life, right? More of my life here at FRSTeam
yeah,
and my time and energy than outside of FRSTeam. And
yeah,
so the founder of our company, Harry Meekma, who started the business back in the late 80s. And Harry always said, like, make it a place that you want to come to work to every day. And I think that for most business owners, that is so important. There are a million things that go on day in and day out. There's a lot of stresses as an owner of a business
yeah,
that your employees shouldn't need to feel. And so I think it's so important that you care about them. I have someone on our national sales team that, she was super sick, single mom at the time, and I like went to her house and brought her Gatorade and saltine crackers on a Tuesday afternoon when I got off the office, because I realized, like, when you're sick, you need to be able to provide for them. And I think that's probably what you're thinking of, is like, you know, do for others the way that you want to be treated.
right.
And, people will never, right, remember what they'll just always remember how you make them feel. And if you can kind of always try and focus on that and figuring out how to make them feel appreciated and wanted at the business, they will then in turn show your customers that same amazing, if they feel cared for, then it's easy for them to care for the people's belongings that you're handling.
Right, 100%. And especially in a franchise, I think it's important to have the leader understand that because it's trickle down, right? Like you have to make sure that if the C-suite don't understand that, then you can't expect the franchisees to understand that, and then you can't expect the technicians to understand that as well. I was speaking with Jeff Waters not too long ago, the current brand president of
Yes.
FRSTeam, for those who don't know, and we were talking about how do you systematize something that is that emotional inside a franchise system without coming across like this is a system, right? Like you're putting someone through a pipeline. And like for people who don't know, a lot of what we do at Nail is optimizing that pipeline, right? And so we were talking with Jeff about how do you optimize something? How do you automate something that is this emotional, right? Because it's a very difficult task. And so I wanted to ask you, I mean, how do you think about systematizing an emotional moment, like, for example, how you've talked about identifying the most meaningful items in someone's home, or that first call, right, where you're asking, like, how are you doing? Trying to gather information from them so that you can help build their customer profile and help them out, but also navigating that difficult conversation of like, man, this person just lost a lot of their belongings, but we still need to get this information from them, right? Like that's a very difficult thing to systematize. So how do you go about doing that in a
Yeah,
franchise?
I think, ultimately we put together like scripts, right, to train our staff across the country on how do you answer a phone call, how do you handle this call or that call. And I think we call it the first 15 here at First Team is when we first arrive at the lost site. We call it first 15. There's a training. We have an online training platform that they have access to. And we really want the homeowner to feel that we care about them and they really get to drive where we go. And so it's like, hey, we're here to help you. We're here to document the claim. We're here to support you in this process. Walk me through your home. Show me what you've got. And we kind of systemize that step process so that every step of the way, it's showing care and empathy towards their items that are badly impacted.
Right, right, 100%. And I think it's super important to make sure that the training is not left untouched for too long. I was talking to a franchise recently who had a similar process, right? Like we have this training, you will show up to the home and the standard stuff, right? But they were having a really hard time because the training hadn't been updated in like 5 years or something like that, 10 years, something crazy. And I was like, interesting. They're like, we're having a really hard time because people are not following it because they don't think it's relevant, right? And so I think it's super important for not only to have that training and to have that empathy and to say, hey, this is how we do things, but also to keep it relevant. That just popped in my head because of a conversation that I had recently. But
And I think you nail something that, right? Like it's important not just to keep it relevant, but the average person takes 7 times to learn something. So I
yeah,
think even in my office, we do morning huddles every day. We talk about what happened yesterday, what claims did we go on, what positive things happened, what were some of the challenges that maybe they faced. Then we talk about the next day, and then we do a 5-minute training every morning. We pick a different topic and we role play. I am a huge proponent of, you know, nobody feels more comfortable with talking to a homeowner and walking through that first 15 when you do it in the office and you have the employees do it to each other,
right.
once a week or maybe every 2 weeks. It's just a great refresher. I think too, we forget stuff. And
Yeah,
it is hard if you've been doing this day in and day out for years and years to remember to always show that empathy, right? Because it
yep,
feels a little more systemized. You're
right.
not trying to follow the process so much. And so I think it's a great opportunity to just constant train and review with your staff and always look back. I think also for us, a lot of our best ideas that we've had and some of the expansion that we've done and the additional services that we've offered, those ideas came from our franchisees and people in the field. So our franchisees might be say, hey, one of the things that we noticed is sometimes the homeowner's there at the front end, but then when we go to leave, they're gone, right? And so we don't get to maybe do a final walkthrough with them. And maybe we had to leave some items that are non-salvageable, like, like food. And
Yep.
so, but we want them to make sure that they know when they come back. So we added a follow-up call at the end of the assignment to make sure we update them. Somebody requested that we put together like a little form that you can leave for them, right? Like a leave behind that says, hey, just want to let you know these items were left because they're perishable items and they can't be restored. Things like that. But those ideas and suggestions always come from the people that are out in the field doing it day in and day out.
Right. And I think I'd love to hear stories of franchisees or franchisors even who really take the input of the people on the ground doing the thing super seriously. And that's one of the things that I love about Superior Fence and Rail, which is one of our clients also in the Empower ecosystem, is they spend a lot of time, like almost an unreasonable amount of time, talking to their franchisees about very unique, specific issues that each franchisee might be coming across. And it's very interesting to me because I think of like the brand president, Joe Dominiak over there, he spends a lot of time on one-on-one calls with these franchisees. And I think to myself, man, Joe's time is not cheap, right? Like this is a valuable man. Like he is a multi like $300 million organization to run. Like this is a big guy. And he's sitting down with franchisees for an hour, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, like just talking through different scenarios, talking through different issues, helping answer questions, right? And I'm like, man, I always love to hear when our franchisors do that, right? They take the input of the people below, right, quote, quote, below them into so much, they hold it in so much regard. And I love to hear that you guys do this a similar thing because again, like we talk about, empathy is I kind of like to think you guys are almost selling empathy, right? Like that is the whole business model that I like to think about, right? Because like yes, at the end of the day, you're helping restore these items, but people only want to work with you because of that empathetic approach, right? Like because anyone else technically could go do the same restoration, but it's the experience and how you make them feel. Like you said, no one's going to care about how well their items got restored if they felt like crap the whole time they were doing it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really interesting thing to think about. And one thing that you've said in the past though is you can't run a company on all empathy without any accountability, right? And one thing that I see frequently is a lot of operators or franchisees will swing kind of too far in one way, right? Like there's a few guys that stick it right in the middle, and I think that they do great, but a lot of times I see people swing too far in one way. Where do you see franchise owners tend to kind of break down on that balance?
Yeah, I would say franchise owners as a whole, I do think they sway back and forth. And what I would say is you'll get some owners that are heavy to empathy. I think of that usually more about like when you think of your team, right?
Yeah.
I learned a long time ago, somebody used to say like fire fast, right?
Yep.
I think if you sway too heavy on empathy, you tend to fire slowly.
Yeah.
And I'm the first to say I have had plenty of times that I fired very slowly. And then after the fact, you're like, why didn't I do that?
Way sooner.
How many other employees might have I lost because I had somebody that wasn't a strong cultural fit?
Yep.
And so I think that's always a challenge for a lot of owners is where you weigh that empathy against the processes, systems, and running a business, right? You still, at the end of the day, you got to stay in business. And I think that's where a lot of businesses really struggle. The most successful ones really sit in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I think the people who understand the balance of both are the ones that have always been successful. And me and my team, when we work with franchise owners, we always like to think, man, are they successful because they're chill in this way, or are they chill in this way because they're successful? Like we try and find what's the reason here? Like why are they like this? And I've over the years, I think we found that it's most likely the former option, right? They are successful because they are that way, and they
Yes.
have that approach to business, and specifically in the team. Yes, I think that that's kind of what I was getting at there was in the team and the culture that you build, not necessarily the customer experience, because you always want to be empathetic in the customer experience, regardless.
Yes, yes, for
Yeah,
sure. I mean, for us, right, when we're dealing with the customer always gets to see the empathetic side,
right.
regardless. But I think it's more about your team,
Yeah,
right? Because you still have standards that you want to hold your team to, whether it's how much they pack out an hour, how efficient they can be at a lost site. Um, you have to weigh that with the homeowner's needs because some homeowners require more time. And,
yeah,
I think it's important to make sure the team understands that there's still accountability measures. I think of this more along, big sports person, right? Grew up my whole life playing sports, weirdly still play sports, even at my age. But the one thing I always took was I had a great coach when I was younger. And the coach said, listen, I love and care about you enough that I will support you in your success, but you also have to be invested in that support for your success. You got to come with me on that journey.
yeah.
Like, I also won't put you in if you're struggling because it's a team effort and the team has to succeed.
Yep.
And I think, maybe it's because team is in our name. I don't know. But I've always really loved that team mentality of like, listen, if we have somebody on the team that is no longer engaged, no longer all in, it's your job as an owner and a franchise owner to make those changes, even on a corporate level, on a store level, even on the big level of Empower Brands, being part of a 10 brand. If you have somebody who's checked out or maybe not invested and doesn't care or isn't fitting with the culture, you've got to make those changes for the betterment of the team, regardless of how much you care and love the individual.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I'm gonna clip that. That's going in. That's going as a clip right there. I'm taking that. That's awesome. Um, a little bit ago, you mentioned how you take candidates for your franchise or potential job candidates as well to restaurants and things like that. Have a meal, really get to know them. And one thing that you've mentioned in the past is that when you take people to a restaurant and you speak to the staff, sometimes you ask the staff to purposefully let something go wrong just to
Yep.
see how the person that you're with reacts to that thing going wrong. And I think that is the most genius litmus test for like how a person is personally, right? Like how they are as a person, because I always like to say you could really tell the character of a person based on how they treat wait staff,
Yeah.
especially in a busy environment where something might go wrong or something didn't, they got their order wrong, whatever, like however they treat that wait staff is like, you can immediately tell what type of person they are. So when you do that, right, when you're going to these restaurants and things, what are you actually looking for in those moments? Like what disqualifies someone? What qualifies someone? What are you looking for when something like that might go wrong?
So it's interesting. I'm actually looking for a couple of things. I'm looking for them to speak up if something went wrong, right? Because I think some people will be like, I ordered the chicken and they gave me beef, but I'm not going to say anything because I'm with somebody who I want to go work with, or
Right.
I'm looking at it, and so I'm just going to be silent. I don't love that because I'm like, no, I want you to speak up when things
Yeah.
go wrong. You've got to bring me into that.
Yeah.
And then I think making sure that how they choose to communicate with everyone that they interact with. So I used to always say, like, I don't care if you're talking to somebody who you believe is, I think you said earlier, beneath you. Like, we all put our pants on the same way.
Yep.
We all are trying to find success in our own life. And I think sometimes, like, how they choose to communicate, like, hey, sorry to bother you. I ordered the steak, not the chicken, you know. And if the waitress is like, oh, I'm sorry about that, that's okay. If it's easier for, like, if they're kind of able to make a shift to help accommodate and make the waitress's job a little bit easier. But I think we've all been out to a meal at some point with someone who, when things go wrong, they really struggle to maintain kind of a positive outlook.
Yeah.
And I think the reality is when you own a business, something is going to go wrong.
Every
There's going to
day.
be a day that an employee forgot to put something on your schedule and you have an irate homeowner who's like, "Where are you?"
Yeah.
Um, or, I mean, just something's going to go wrong, or you've got a crazy busy day and two employees call in sick. How do you react to those two employees that called in sick on that bad day? Because I think it's just really important. So you're looking for that really from those opportunities when you're having a meal with somebody, is how do they handle adversity as it comes at them?
Yeah, yeah. One of our clients, Drew Raymond, who's a multi-location owner for Superior Fence and Rail, has a wonderful framework for this, which is only stress or only worry about those things you can control, right? So he says that he has this circle of influence that's about arm's length, right? He can only really control and have an influence on things that are within his arm's length, and outside of that, there's nothing that he can really do. So some things might pop up, like there's a flat tire on a truck on the way to the job site and they're going to be late, or various other things, right? Like one time they showed up to a house and it was literally on fire. Like the house was on fire when they showed up to the job site, right? And so like the team was freaking out. They're like, oh my God, what do we do? Like there's this whole thing. And Drew said that they got that first call. The team was freaking out. They were like, Drew, what do we do? We don't know. And he was like, basically, he guided them through, like, okay, you know what to do. Like, you're not asking me, like, to call the cops, to do these three things, and then after you've done those three things, then call me, right? So they go do these three things. 45 minutes pass, things calm down. They call back. Drew's like, okay, now what? And then they come up with this beautiful plan, right? They're like, okay, yep, we helped the homeowner do this, right? And they're just a fencing contractor, right? But they help the homeowner like get people out of the building and all this, like they helped do this thing. And he was like, I the whole time was not sitting there freaking out about what was happening at this job site because I knew that's not going to add anything to the situation, right?
Right.
That would only take away my team's ability to be confident in what they're doing, right? Because if I start to freak out, then they think that they should start to freak out, right? Um, and so I love that concept of you can only worry about the things that are within your arm's reach, like what's in your circle of influence, and that's super important in business. And I think that the restaurant example is like the perfect litmus test to figure out if that person is a Drew Raymond, right? They're like, you know what, I can only focus on things that are within my reach, or if they're just a complete not fit and they go crazy over something that is out of their control. And when I hear people talk about that as a leader, again, I love the way that you lead. Because when I hear people talk about that, I see that you are thinking beyond what they will do for the business, right? Like I think a lot of people hire to just fill bodies, right? Put butts in seats. But I love how you take the approach of like, no, we really want this person to be able to emulate who we are as a brand. And I think that's one of the reasons why you guys have been so successful and why you have all those lovely accolades to your right there, is because you guys super hyper focus on that image, right? On that brand, on that experience that you bring, and especially through the people that you bring on the team.
Yeah. I think it's, not to say there hasn't, I mean, over 30 years, there's been plenty of times that you're like in a panic mode and you hire to put somebody, you're like, you have a pulse, great, you're hired.
Right.
When can you start?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and I think in an ideal world, right, we all go through these steps day in and day out. And then we have panic moments when the business is growing exponentially very quickly, which is why I think it's always important to always be looking to hire, and always be open to that opportunity. And I think you said something too. I always took things. Um, I have a really good friend who, whatever, this terrible, sad story, but I have a really close friend from high school that was diagnosed with cancer at a very young age, at 18, freshman at Stanford University. And I'll never forget, his dad tells the story. They've just found out that their 18-year-old, who's a freshman at Stanford, has been diagnosed with a rare form of childhood cancer that he is not going to survive. And they're leaving the hospital. It's him and his wife, and they're driving, and somebody cuts him off. And Trip, not of the right mind at the time, literally like chases the guy down and like wants to fight him. And so I always try and remember that story and think, listen, you're going to have a homeowner who sometimes is not the nicest to our team. And I always tell people, I'm like, listen, we never know what's going on with somebody else in their life. And so try and remember that. Even with coworkers, right? Somebody could have a really terrible morning. Things could be really bad for them personally. And so I always try as an owner, like if you have an employee that comes in, or even if I have a franchisee that maybe calls and is not communicating in the nicest way today, I try and just remember, like, I don't know what happened before this call. I don't know what they've got going on. And so I always try and do that pause where I'm like, hey, you don't seem like yourself today. Is everything okay? Like before I defend or talk about whatever the issue is, you don't seem like yourself today. And I think that, I don't know if I call it empathy. It's just, it's truly caring about the people that you work with day in and day out, whether it's an employee, a franchisee, a franchisor, you know, I think that that matters. And it
Yeah.
matters to the human that you're talking to. And it sometimes can de escalate an issue, um, by just listening, right?
Yeah.
And just paying enough attention to each other in this crazy world that we live in to know that not all of us are having the best day every day, and stuff can happen
Yeah.
that is beyond their control that can definitely influence who they are as a human.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I just love, uh, I love the way that you think about just leading people and having relationships with employees and how to be. You have a very high emotional intelligence. Like you understand that it's not always what's on the surface, and I
There's
love
an
that.
app for that. I don't know if you know that. There is. There's an emotional intelligence app where you get to check in with yourself, start learning about your own triggers. I think, like, as a franchise, part of the amazing Empower Brands brought that to us. Our one of our C-suites, Tom Welter, had us all as brand presidents go through emotional intelligence training. And I think
That's awesome.
as a franchisee or as a franchisor, those are amazing benefits always looking and always learning, right? Trying to
Yeah.
figure out like, how do I know what my trigger points are?
Yeah.
So that hopefully the next time I get in that moment, I can practice a pause and say, you know what? We'll talk about it tomorrow. I'm not in the right mind today
Hmm.
to have this turn into a positive outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Speaking of Empower at Ignite 2026, which you and I were both at, but somehow didn't run into each
I
other.
know. What are the odds?
I know, right? The at Ignite 2026, you gave your final president's address and officially kind of handed the reins off to Jeff Waters. Um, what does that what does that feel like to step away from something that you spent 6 years building as a brand president, but almost 3 decades building as any other role underneath the sun, right? Like, how did that feel to step away and kind of hand over that responsibility?
Yeah. I was like, are you trying to make me cry? Is this like one of those Barbara Walters shows? But no, so two things. One, I couldn't be more excited for Jeff Waters, right? So Jeff Waters, I've had a chance to work with Jeff Waters for over 10 years. He was a franchisee for 10.
That's awesome.
He was part of our franchise business consultant team for a couple of years. And so I like to feel like I picked my replacement. And so there's something exciting about that, seeing someone who I know is absolutely going to do amazing in the role. There's also this there it's a little sad. It's like watching your kid go off to college where you're like, okay, I've raised you. I think I've done a really as good of job as I can, but it's time for you to go out and like figure it out on your own. But as a parent, you're still like a little sad.
Right.
And I would say like for me, it was really more joy. Like I think it's really important as any leader to set goals. And I put together a list of goals when I moved into the brand president, expanding into contents, hitting a certain threshold of new franchise owners. And I put together this amazing list, helped so many clients. And I accomplished everything during my tenure as president. And I also think a strong leader also knows when it's time to get out of the way.
Yeah.
And things need to progress, and you're maybe not the right person for that moving forward.
Yeah.
And whether it's you don't have the drive that you maybe have when you first step into a role, and you need to get that excitement again. And I really saw that opportunity with Jeff moving into the role. And so I just really decided I also am of that age where I get to kind of pick what I want to do in my life. And I really love seeing new franchise owners get this opportunity to be successful. And so getting to really focus my time and effort into growing our franchise opportunities and getting to, meet potential new franchise owners, finding people that are going to be wildly successful and are great for our culture really is a passion of mine. And so getting to really do that on a full-time basis really was, I think, more exciting than thinking about like, I'm done as the president. Although every once in a while I used to have moments where I was like, wait, what's happening? Like, how do I not know
Right.
what's going on with that?
Right. And that's definitely something you've got to get used to because it's as someone when you step away from something that you've built for so long, like you kind of have like these subconscious thoughts of like, oh yeah, I know everything that's going on, all the issues come to me, I get what people tell me things, and now you're like, wait a minute, people
I'm
aren't
out of
telling
the
me
loop.
exactly, and you're like,
FOMO.
what's
I have
going on?
FOMO.
But you're like, oh right, that's what I signed up, right? That's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think again, as a leader, I think you've done a great job at creating the environment for someone like Jeff to come in and really succeed because you've set the foundation that's really been able to grow from where you guys were 6 years ago to where you guys are now. And I completely agree that I think Jeff is the right person to take this forward into that next level, right? Into that next step of growth. And I'm super excited to see what you guys end up doing. What are you excited for the brand nowadays? As we kind of wrap up the episode here, I want to hear about what you're looking forward to for the brand.
Yeah, two things. One, I love technology. I'm a little bit of a technology junkie. And so I'm really excited to see how technology can take away some of the day-to-day pieces of our business that really don't need a human's touch, right? They really can be automated. I think about even just follow-ups with homeowners, right?
Yep.
Somebody used to have to pick up the phone and call somebody or send a text message, even if it was like just checking in, how's your house coming? Are you still not going to be back in for another 3 months? And being able to automate that so that I think it will actually increase customer service levels. So
Yep.
that really excites me. Um, and I think for me, getting to see more business owners across the country and we still have quite a bit of white space and getting
Yep.
to see new owners come on board. Some of our newest owners, they're younger. We have like an OG group that's been around as long as I have
Yep.
been, and getting to see some of them retire is also really exciting. I
Yeah.
think in the last year, we've had four of our business owners sell to
That's
new
awesome.
owners coming in, and that's always exciting to me to see like they did what they wanted, right? They built
Right.
a business, they grew it, they sold it, and now they're in retirement.
Yeah.
And I think that that to me is a little bit of that American dream when people start this franchise adventure is I have a 5 year goal or a 10-year goal or a 20-year goal and and seeing them be able to reach their goals is really exciting.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's amazing, and especially with a brand that's been around for so long, you really can see that whole shift of like, man, we've got new guys coming in that are young, 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 and then we got these other guys coming in that are selling to the new guys. I think that's a beautiful thing to watch, kind of the life cycle of the franchisee, if you will.
It is. It's really great to see. And I think anytime you get new owners in, you get new ideas, right?
Yeah,
On, hey, have we thought about this or what about that? And that to me gets really exciting when I think about our systems and processes and
yep,
ways to continue to grow and change those for the success
yep,
of
that's
our
awesome,
franchises and our
exciting.
franchise community.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Um, where can people find you if they want to learn more about First Team, if they want to learn more about you and how to get in touch, or maybe they're curious about opening up a First Team franchise, or just want to learn more about the brand, where can they find you?
Yeah, I mean, they can find me. I'm everywhere, but they can go to our website, FRSTeam.com. They can email me directly at hmurray, although my last name has no A in it, and that confuses the world today.
Right.
But hmurray at First Team. I am on LinkedIn. My cell phone number's on there. My email address is on there. They can contact me anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Holly, for coming on the show. I love this episode. I love what you guys have built at First Team. I love you as a leader. I just love your frameworks and how you think about building a brand. So again, thank you for coming on the show, and I hope to see you again very soon.
Yeah, I would love that. And thanks for having me. It's always fun to chat. Doing this as long as I have, I think it's always great. And I'm really excited for you and your success and seeing, that youthful side and really finding solutions for companies that helps make them better, I think is pretty amazing. So
Thank you very
I know
much.
Zach was so impressed and I highly respect Zach in his role. And we kind of I got to empower brands a little bit before him, but
Right.
we've had an amazing opportunity to work together. And anything that he sees, I'm always like, "Ooh, what are you doing?"
Right, right, right. That's awesome. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I kudos back to you again. How you see Zach is how I see you. I love to see how you see the world. So I appreciate it.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, George. I really appreciate your time.
Of course.